All right, I see people joining. Good morning, everybody. Okay, I see a lot of people joining in. Like we are just 1 minute earlier, so we're just welcoming everybody, and we'll start at 11 sharp. Good morning, everybody. Grab a coffee, have a seat, comfortable. Um, yeah, dropping in. Nice. So, as a quick starter, I'm Alexis. I will be your host of today. I'm with Testing Time, and I have the pleasure to welcome Lydia from real.digital. Lydia, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
Yeah. So, okay, now I see we are 11 sharp, so we'll start, and the rest of the people will start joining. So again, thanks for joining. I'm Alexis, and today we'll be talking about the UX team of one. This is part of our UX talks that we organize monthly with our customers. And the concept of UX talks basically it's to leave the stage to people who have solved challenges in their UX careers, and provide you with tools and tips about what to do in yours as well. So if it's the first time you're joining, this is a 45-minute format where Lydia and me, we are going to have a coffee conversation, talk a bit about career. She might be sharing something about how they do things at Health Digital. And in the end, you'll have questions. So we'll answer questions based on the most upvoted questions. So during the conversation, if you have any questions, something that dropped your mind, please just write it. We are on Zoom. You have the Q&A navigation at the bottom. You can ask the question, and then at the end, Lydia and me will take it from there. So the last thing, I would like to introduce a bit who is organizing it. So we are Testing Time, and we are a Swiss startup that recruit test users all across Europe. We've been doing it for 5 years, and we work today with more than 1,000 companies, including Health Digital, and we recruit test users in 48 hours for any methodologies, remote, and also used to be in-house. Now, not anymore, but hopefully we hope it will come back very soon. So, I mean, let's dive into the subject of the UX team of one, how to create impact. And Lydia, thanks for being here today.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for inviting me. So yeah, I'm Lydia. I'm working at real.digital as a UX researcher. I started around 1.5 years ago, a bit more by now. And before that, I studied cognitive and media science. So that was kind of a mix of psychology and computer science, which is kind of a good combination for going into the UX field. So yeah, being there since roughly 1.5 years by now.
Okay, wow. Okay, cool. And so that's a very good base. And for the one who don't know what is Health Digital, can you explain a bit what is the company about? And
yeah, sure. So we are an e-commerce platform in the German market right now, also in nearby countries. And yeah, it's a marketplace model similar to what you maybe know from Amazon. We are based in Cologne and Darmstadt, but also work remotely, like since Corona. So it's really open to work everywhere and selling every product basically which you could imagine.
Okay, cool. Thank you. And since you started there a few time ago, and it's all about the topic of today, can you describe a bit how were things when you started at Health Digital?
Yeah, sure. So I started as an UX designer, so not as a researcher. And by the time where I joined, the company was really good into quantitative metrics, saying they were doing a lot of A/B testing. We had Google Analytics, having the quantitative part of research, but the qualitative part was not really there. So when I joined, I think there was a colleague before who did the first ever UX test in the company. So that was really the beginning of everything. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And I mean, we're going to talk about your trajectory today and how basically things really shifted internally. So to give a perspective of basically what you achieved in the time, in this time, can you give us a snapshot of how things are today?
Yeah, so as I said, so the qualitative part was not really like integrated into the tech, and right now we do have an UX lab. So basically,
Okay.
like before Corona, we used it quite a lot. So we changed like a meeting room, which we used to have before, and really changed it bit by bit into like a UX lab. We are like really testing a lot, like in usability testing, but also other kind of methodologies. So it's like well established into the tech department. So I think every team starts by doing research, which
Okay.
is really great, like in the qualitative part.
Yeah. Awesome. So it's like a real transformation, what we're
Yeah,
talking about.
yeah,
Pretty awesome.
yeah.
No, congrats. And I mean, since you mentioned this, I think it's interesting for us before to jump into the team of one to talk about the COVID impact
Mm.
and how you people like at Help Digital, adapted to this new, limitation or, research methodology. I would say like,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was quite of a change because at that time, as yeah, we built up basically the research like little by little. We started by having on-site research. So we had this UX lab where we were inviting participants, doing usability tests, interviews, but everything was on-site. So I was already planning to go into remote, but it was not like on the top list of my agenda. And then basically like like the Corona situation came, and when we were like leaving the office, I think we had a test plan for Friday of the next week, and we just shifted it like really quickly into the remote setting. So we ordered with testing time like for a remote session, and then got basically with video calls and um, basic settings into the first usability test. And right now, yeah, it's, I would say, nearly the same. So we're using
okay.
moderated and unmoderated tests, and we're also looking into more formats. So it's really interesting to have, for example, we started with diary studies,
Okay.
like remote diary studies, which we weren't doing before. So we
Yeah.
texting, for example, via WhatsApp with our users, or we looked into a bit more into accessibility research. So like basically it's also a chance because like more topics come up which we weren't so aware before, or we try out new methodologies. So yeah, it's also a great chance. And I think like after a month, like also all the teams and product designers were really like used again into the new tools, into new processes, and it's working fine.
Okay. No, it's interesting because we start to see across the board that most of the research teams are kind of adapting to this new normal and are actually getting, let's say, bolder in their research requirements. Like, you mentioned accessibility, diary studies, like, is there anything, what was the biggest, surprise, positive surprise, I would say, in testing remotely vs in-house for you?
I would also say maybe the quickness of the results. For example, if you have like unmoderated tests, like you can just put like the task up, you get a result maybe in 2 or 3 hours, and you can continue on it. And it's like also a good benefit of integrating research if you needed to do like in a quick way or getting quick results. So I think that was a really positive part, which we didn't have before. Like we were
Okay.
always doing like the moderating testings because we were inviting the people. So I think that was a good benefit of it, of having it in the remote setting right now.
Okay, cool. Something to consider for all the researcher out there.
Yeah, definitely.
No, cool. And okay, perfect. So actually, it's a perfect transition to okay. Now you get this whole maturity, and you're able to do a lot of things remotely, even. But let's go back in time when you started, when you were like UX team of one at Hagita. at the time when you arrived, what was the most difficult thing for you, to get into the company, or how to do basically in the company?
Mm-hmm. So I started as a UX designer, like really not as a researcher, because that wasn't a term at all. But for me, it was clear that I wanted to go more into the research part. So there were like 2, 3 other colleagues, like product designer and product managers, who also were like aware that qualitative research was needed. So basically, like, I think maybe the biggest challenge was like to like really create this awareness at the start of saying like, hey, why do we even need qualitative research? Like, why do we test with 5 people and don't look like at the quantitative data itself? So I think that was like really the part of it at the beginning, of showing what is the capabilities of research, like why would you need it, and in which sense it affects your product.
Okay. No, perfect. And how did you create this, this craving from the product team, or to show the value of qualitative research versus, quantitative?
Yeah. So at the start it was difficult, of course, because we didn't have like really numbers to prove on, like business KPIs, but we started like really with more emotional side of things. So for example, we just invited participants to do like explanatory discovery on the page at the beginning, and then created like video snapshots of that, or just got a quote out of it. So basically kind of reflecting to our colleagues like how real users were actually perceiving the products they were creating, and kind of showing like the possibility of what was there. And yeah, once we got more into it, like really doing like the first project, starting with research and really doing more usability tests, doing interviews, then of course we had one pilot team, I would say, where the designer was really engaged also into research, and there we could then prove as well the value, like saying, okay, we getting better GMV after this test, for example, after implementing it, or the bounce rate has decreased. So yeah, it started a bit like the emotional human side, I would say, and now it's really also based on numbers that we can prove that of course the UX value has been generated.
No, I think, thanks. It's like, I think it's an awesome summary of like how you start somewhere and you start to move a bit, like to democratizing, the perception of research.
And I learned at the start, like to really explain like a lot, like to generate this knowledge inside the company of what is research. Like I think like after 3 months I was there, I think I did like a presentation, like what is Lydia actually doing in the UXLab? Like what is this UXLab? So, because it was kind of unclear, like you knew, okay, designers are like designing the products, and you have the product managers, you have developers, but what is this UXLab? Like why isn't it a meeting room anymore? So there I tried really to explain like what is research, how you can do it, and yeah, that was kind of the starting of democratizing the research. And of course, you need to involve like the designers, like especially the designers and also developers. So basically it's kind of supporting, consulting, and trying to extend the knowledge.
No, I think it's really interesting, your experience, because it really shows one thing that happens before even research starts, is like how you position yourself internally in the company. And as you say, you made a presentation, you showed it to the people. Maybe you did like many presentation, because I mean, you're just saying like, we are talking 45 minutes, but in truth, like this encompass a lot of your experience and meetings you had with people. And I think it's something across the board, but it's really interesting for people to get a feeling of, sometimes we just have this researcher title and we think we are entitled, we'll get research, but it's not really the case. We need to kind of show how we can bring, value to the table. And that's, I think that resonates very strongly with your approach. And I mean, I know also by personal experience, it's a very, let's say, hard work as well, because you need to manage internal stakeholders, the normal delivery work. How did you find a way for yourself to, kind of track progress, like internally? How is research understood? How is research democratized in some way at the company?
Yeah, so at the start, so as I was only like the UX designer at the start, basically to track like how the demand for research was growing was basically to see how much time I was spending on it. So at the
Mm-hmm.
beginning, I was inside a product team. I was really the designer, with the team around me, and doing like part-time research and the UXLab. So maybe 8 hours a week, not
Okay.
more. And then after the demand keep growing, like I could say, okay, I need more time on this. Like we have like 3 or 4 teams who really want to do research. So that was already one
Mm-hmm.
way how you could really show internally, like we have this demand, like the teams want to do it.
Okay.
So that was a good way to track it. And afterwards, I also looked into more how many people really watch an UX test. So for example, we always stream like the tests, because we want to show it to everyone. So whenever we do a test, we stream it in the entire tech company. And one possibility to see how engaged really like your colleagues are into it is like seeing if they really watching it. So if they are
Mm-hmm.
interested into the research. And after time and time, it got every time like more time into research and less being like really inside the design team. And then I got kind of lucky with the PM I got at the time and my line manager, that they saw the struggle of being into the 2 positions of being designer and researcher at the same time. And then we actually said, okay, we need a full-time researcher. Like it's really
Nice.
something which is needed.
Yeah.
And that was like half a year after I joined. So
Okay.
that was the transition into it. So I think the most important is really like spreading knowledge and trying to gain interest along your colleagues, because then
Mm-hmm.
you get the demand back at the same time, and then you can show again that you really are needed for this role.
Yeah.
That it's required to have research. So yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's quite impressive, because it's a, let's say, short time at the big company, and you already proved this value, and in a way, it's like you have very simple KPIs of how people are following research, how much they're engaging, and I think it's a system that any researcher could use internally for themselves to keep track of the time they're spending on research actually
Yeah,
versus whatever.
exactly.
So I
So
think,
both sides like to have the internally measurements and the external, like what is really the business impact you have, which is of course also part of the product teams. But having it internally is a good way for
yeah,
justifying your position basically.
yeah. Okay, cool. So now we did like let's say we did the hardest part, which is, okay, now you prove value of research. Now you earn, let's say, somehow sit at the table, but now you're like full-time user researcher, but you're still a team of one. So how do you manage this? Like, how do you go it from there?
Yeah, that was the next part. So basically, before I was inside the team, so we had all this structure which you have inside a product team, like refinement, weeklies, brainstormings, and then suddenly I was outside of the team and kind of supporting all others. So at the start, it was kind of difficult to like just think, okay, like how should I do a brainstorming? Like, how is that supposed to work with one person?
Yeah.
So I basically tried like to really like keep connecting like with especially the product designers, because that's what's most closely related to, but also
Mhm.
looking into more networking, into more exchange with other researchers online, or like in networking events when they were still happening, to really get this exchange with other researchers. And what I came up is that a lot of other are also like a team of one. So it's
Mhm.
they face like same challenges, they have gone through the same processes. So that was maybe the most difficult part of really like being inside a team and then suddenly not having like a proper team to like really be creative with. Yeah, I would say this is the most biggest challenge, but yeah, it gets solved if you get you have your colleagues which are maybe not the researchers but still like have really valuable ideas and can collaborate with you.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think getting connected, it's kind of a base skills of researcher, because you need to know what the stakeholders are thinking, and how you can bring value at the right moment, basically. All right. No, yeah. And how did you okay, so you started there. It was, let's say, a new role, new connections to make. How did you then advance bit by bit to, continue on this research journey, let's say?
So basically, like, we also started off defining better the role. So what is actually supposed to do like a UX researcher? And we came up basically with these two different points, which are part of my task. So one is really like supporting like the product teams in the entire tech. So we have more than 20 teams. And every time like a team wants to do like really research, they can come up to me, explain like what they're trying to achieve, like what are their ideas, and I'm doing like supporting, consulting them into that. But the other biggest part as well is like really advancing research. So it's like which new methods we could maybe test out, or which formats are maybe good for the processes inside the department. So it's this two things of the role. And by really like going into like this, I would say like improving research is like the part where it's most interesting, of course, for me, because I get to try out new things. Like, for example, we did like contextual studies, like really going into like participants, the living room, sitting with them next on the couch and just trying to buy something on our page. Or we got all kind of different like more user need centric tests. So
No, cool. And how to say, so at the time you were like, you had like a dual say hat, which was how you help the product team and then you advance research. Like what kind of methodologies were you playing with at the time?
So I would say the most common used which we have is like usability testing, so that we really like want to try out if a feature, an idea a team has is working. But we do also, for example, doing interviews. Like we did have in our UXLab like eye tracking, which is like really, I think it's really interesting. Like I implemented that as well, like a bit on the low budget, so to say. So it's not like a big eye tracking where you can like get like patterns of everything, but instead it's like an additional visual clue which we are using. So we did have that at the UXLab. We have some other tools like, I don't know, maybe some of you know it, which is called like Mr. Tappy. It's like just like a tool which you can plug in onto a mobile phone, and then the user, if they are there, can just work around and see, behave like in a normal way. So these are like, I would say, different tools we have tried out and done.
No, it's really interesting, because I mean, now also you kind of in a support position in the product teams, but like I would say the challenge now is how do you integrate the rhythm of research with these product teams, let's say own roadmaps, sprints, etc. And I mean, I guess it was probably a challenge as well to fit the right methodologies at the right time.
Definitely. Yeah, so at the start, because we were just building it up, we really took like long time to prepare usability, because we haven't done it so many times, or at the beginning we were recruiting like participants by ourselves, like I think my whole friends have passed through the UXLab. So it took like, I would say maybe 1.5 weeks to really prepare a test and conducting it.
Oh, wow.
And that was really kind too long, like for the short usability tests when you have maybe a sprint of 2 weeks. So then after really being quite a while into the research, we said, okay, we need to scale this process. We need really to get quicker participants, more reliable, and speed up the whole process. And that's how we came up, for example, with a format which we call like Lean UX. So we invite all the time, like every Thursday, every 2 weeks, we invite participants so that the designers or the product teams already know, okay, in 1 week we have anyway participants there. And the idea behind that is that, for example, on Monday, they come up with some questions, they can prepare for it, share between them, and then on Thursday we already test it. And because we have this this routine on it, it's like, okay, then they know if there is something they want to test, they can test it definitely on this day. Of course, there's additional ways to test it if you have like bigger things. But this fits quite well, and like this 2 weeks sprint, for example. So you have on Friday like your results, which you can work on the next week. So we basically reduced like the process of having it like more than 1.5 weeks to like 3 days to really prepare it, like for usability tests. Of course, there's like other tests which are like more holistics, and like for example this contextual interviews which we did, and there we needed more time for preparation. But for like I would say the daily work of product teams, there we have like this 3 to 4 days, I would say. Or even sometimes if we test internally, it's like, hey, I want to do a test, and we're doing it in the afternoon. So it's all possible.
No, wow, it's pretty amazing to see this kind of transition from a long timeline to test, which still many people are kind of used to this kind of really rapid user tests, or like rituals. And I've have talked to many also researchers like you, is like I see like the rituals are really something the most impactful, because it creates a rhythm internally, and you don't have like people are not trying to cram all the research into one, since if their topic doesn't go in this research, it can go into the next, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's also a possibility to keep the product teams engaged really with the users, because it's really uncommon that a team doesn't have anything like to test, or even one question to ask to a user like after 2 weeks of working. Like if they are like in the discovery or like working on a project, they always come up questions. So it's also a good way to not have really like blocking the team, like to say, okay, we need at least like 30 minutes of usability test, but instead you can just drop in one question which maybe takes a minute. But by compiling all of them, then you have again like a 30-minute test session. So it's also good like to get the small insights out of there.
Okay, no, cool. And in this process, you as the researcher, like what is your role? Do you still keep hands-on into the research, like doing also the moderation, analysis, etc., or did you decide at some point that it kind of was too much for you, and you had to kind of, I don't know, not make boundaries, or say like, I cannot do this part, you have to do it? What was your solutions at the time?
Yeah, so the approach from the start was basically to democratize it, to not have like one central point where you could just ask me like, hey, I want to do this research, and then I come back with the answers like some days or weeks later. Because it was clear that for one team, that like for one person in the team, that was not really feasible. Like there would come too many requests. So the approach is basically that if the test is like really related to the team, so let's say we have a team who is working on the homepage and they want to find out something about that the product designer is the one responsible for really doing the research as well. So my role is basically consulting and supporting. So for example, at the start, like which method to choose, like which task really to question the user. And of course, if we have colleagues who are not so experienced into moderation, then I give some training into how you can get like the best questions or the best answers out of it. But the real moderation and conducting research is done by the team, because we also wanted to really engage the team inside it. So we have also had some cases where product managers really like conducted, or even developers or data scientists. So it's like we're trying to involve like everyone, and at the same time, of course, this also I can give away like the part of really doing the research for usability tests.
Yeah.
And when it comes like to bigger projects, like more holistic approach, then I am the one who's really moderating, evaluating and preparing. But yeah.
Okay, cool. And I mean, that's really interesting, because many teams as well are like, I think, feeling the same pain as you, of like having one researcher and creating a bottleneck. So you kind of open up different ways. On your part, like when people come to you for research questions, or they say, oh, I'm going to do this usability test or this, do you have kind of formal process of you ensure like somehow the research is not biased by the team, or is it depending on experience? Because I know it's a big topic in research teams, like how do we ensure the team do proper research, not so much biased research from what they want to look for.
So basically when there comes like a request, like before it was basically they just wrote me on Slack and say, hey, I want to do like a test, for example. But now we also do have it like a bit more formal to keep track of everything. So we have like a Jira board where there are actually requests placed in, and there it's like really just 3 or 4 questions about like what is actually your research question, what method would you really like to, and how urgent is everything. So, and based on that, then I set up normally a meeting and talk with the product designer and product manager, and we look through really the tasks. So yeah, then I can say sometimes, okay, it's maybe this task is like not the best for really getting an objective one, but I would say in general, like all the teams are really objective about their results. So it's totally fine to say, okay, it didn't work, like my prototype, it's not the best idea, or like the user didn't understand it. I think that's not a problem at all in our organization from the product teams. So it's really valuable also to say, okay, we don't need this idea, we just throw it away, it's not working.
No, cool, perfect. Yeah, it's good. I mean, it was interesting to see how you keep kind of the process aligned, and how much still overhead or hands-on discussion you still have with the people involved.
I always try to really do that, to not lose like really this research exchange about it. So to have at least before every test maybe half an hour, maybe an hour, depending on the research topic, but to really have the exchange about what they are planning really to do and why, like what is the reason behind it. And sometimes then we say, oh, maybe in the discussion we realized maybe we don't need even this test, or we have done something similar before, which kind of already answers the questions they have. So that's, I really like to have like the discussions with the teams.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And I think also a very big topic when we discuss about the UX team of one is about also the whole tooling, the whole, let's say backbones that enable you to do more with, being one person. And I mean, the first thing that comes to mind, because you mentioned it, is like you try to recruit users yourself. And we all know the pain of what it is. And the key question that we have a lot, it's like, at which moment should company look to really scale or like professionalize their recruitment in part of the process, so it doesn't become, let's say, a full-time job for you, and you can just focus on research, on dealing with research questions with the product designer, etc.
So for us, it was really the point when we saw that more and more teams were like really wanting to do research. So maybe we could recruit like 5 people if we were doing it every 3 or 2 weeks a test. But at some point we were like, okay, 2 tests, 1 to test into 1 week. How do we get so many people? Or even like, which is even more important, I think, if you have like specialized user groups. So for if we have a usability test which is maybe related to the checkout of our e-commerce shop, then maybe you want some user group who are using a certain payment method, or which have a specific income or a specific age. So you really need to target like a specific user group to have like valuable insights based on the results you get. So that was basically the point for us to say like, okay, we cannot keep recruiting on ourselves. And it was also a matter of time, to be honest, like to have like to be able, for example, to test at 10 in the morning or at 11 in the morning, because when you recruit by yourself or with your friends, like most people are like full-time working, so they come maybe at 5, 6 p.m. So you have a really long day. We're doing research at the end. So yeah, it's saving time and getting like more accurate results, basically.
No, yeah, I mean that's a fair point, because we get the question a lot, and it's a lot of also discussions that you kind of open up recruitment or you do it externally. So it's always kind of some fear from teams, but it's good to have your perspective on what it brings also on the table as validity of research, but also more time for you to focus on things.
The teams were really happy about it, I would say, like to know that actually people also would show up like more reliable, and to be able to plan better and quicker.
Like for you like when you see kind of the trajectory of research internally and how you advance research, how much importance would you give to that part of the recruitment process? Like what in terms of impact for you as a team?
So it made me able to scale it. That was, I think that's the most important reason. Like without participants, you cannot really test more, even if your team wants to. So I think that was the most important part of it, that without really recruiting outside, like outsourcing it, we couldn't have scaled it in the way we are right now. So it's a good way to really be able to scale it and to do ad hoc questions maybe sometimes.
I think it's very valuable point you're making, actually. I mean, we almost near the end. I see many questions. So actually I'm going to end up a bit earlier so we can take them all. We have 19 already. But just to close in, what I wanted to ask you, what are the stage you are right now? Because I mean, you are a team of 1.
I'm actually not a team of 1 anymore. That's also good news for hopefully anyone looking at this. So basically, since 1.5 months now, we have another full-time researcher, and also like some time ago, like a working student joined me. So we are actually growing really the team. And this also, I mean, it's really great. That's what it solves kind of a lot of the problems which I mentioned at the beginning, like how do you brainstorm, how do you get feedback, but of course it brings you also into like more newer challenges right now. So how do you split research? How do you prepare a process? Like who should be the address person if a team has a question? So you're kind of looking now also to build up basically this research team and to become like from the team of 1 to hopefully like a even growing research team. So that would be the next steps, and also looking more into like really how we can keep with the remote research, like how we can scale that as well, which which methods or which new formats would work there. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, always keeping busy. Yeah.
Yeah, that's most important.
Yeah, we can do a snapshot back, like, you know, in 1 year and see what happened as
Yeah,
an
what?
overview.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
definitely. No, I think it's really, really interesting. And congrats for not being a team of one anymore.
Yeah.
I think that's, yeah, the whole point of this session, of the webinar, is like you can start by yourself and you can still have a big impact like you did until, you know, you bring other people on board, which is
Exactly.
kind of awesome.
Yeah. So basically, yeah, at the start, I was doing it like 8 hours a week, and now we are like 3 people working on research. So I think,
Yeah,
yeah.
I can see you still keep track of the KPIs of time
Yeah.
allocated to research. Huh?
Definitely.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
we should show a graph, like a time graph, where it
Yeah.
starts, from 8 a week, and then it's now, yeah, let's say it's like 3 full time, like 120 hours
Yeah.
a week. Then, so it's like
Yeah.
more than 10 times. If we
It's quite
speak
an
data
increase.
language, yeah, good an
Yeah.
increase. Okay, now I'll stop talking and we'll
Yeah.
just go into the questions.
All right.
That was really enlightening. And we'll start with the questions on the top, which is from Ian. How do you communicate what you have learned in your research with those who build an interface, and how do they generally react to what you have to say?
Yeah, okay, that's a good question about like the formats which we are actually sharing research. So on one side, the team like really conducting research is always sharing it, for example, in product reviews which we have inside the companies, or we also share it in the design weeklies, so that we get this exchange of insights. And we do have also channels in Slack like called like UX research, UX insights, where we keep posting like what is really like what came out of the research. So we don't really do like big like reports like with a lot of pages, and instead we try like to really sum it up in a short way in Confluence as well, documenting it there, and then just basically try to talk a lot about what we have done. And it's always good to also show some pictures, like to track, like for example, if you go to the contextual studies, I come back to this, or just really see like how the user is sitting on the sofa, like in one picture gives you like so much more detail than just reading about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Good point. Second question is like, how do you stream a user test live in your company? Like, which tool do you use?
Yeah. So we normally use Google Meet. So we basically just invite the participants there, do the test there, and then there's the option to be able to record and stream. So and then you can just broadcast the link like to everybody in the channel, for example, and they can join without really like being seen by the participants, because that's another point which I wanted to avoid at that time, to see like the participants and have like 50 people watching it. So yeah.
No, good point. Let me check the other question now from Tristan. He is, I guess he's asking kind of the same streaming thing. But they have a legal challenge because they block user software from the US. Okay, no, I get it. Do you have, maybe European software you have in your mind?
It's not for us, it's not really the problem. Like we do have like the legal papers, we also do it digitally, so to have like really the consent of streaming and of video, like getting the video of it. That's via DocuSign, so it's basically like a tool which is used for online signature. But from this legal part, we don't have any problems yet. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, Tristan. We'll ask our network if we can find, European, solutions to this kind of streaming options. But yeah, we don't have that problem now. So we'll get to the next one, which is, okay, How are the topics of the test are prioritized every 2 weeks?
Mhm.
How long is your backlog then somehow?
It's actually, so we do it for different areas. So for example, I didn't mention that before, but for example, we have one area which is called Explore and Discover. And there we have 4 teams. So basically this Thursday would be like for this area, for example. And until now, it always worked, like to really look into it. Like sometimes even the designers discuss between them, like to prioritize, like, hey, I really need this like urgently, or this is just a nice to have. So then we sort the tasks based on the on the importance of it. So that if we don't reach at the end, like to the last task, it's also not that big issue. Or we just extend the sessions. Like sometimes we just say, okay, let's instead of doing half an hour, if we already seeing, okay, we will have like a lot of questions, and we say we invite the participant for 1 hour. That's also possible.
Okay, yeah, that's a smart way of, you have a short format, but if you need, you just extend it as
Yeah,
you go,
exactly.
and try to cover more things. So yeah, interesting. All right, and okay, how do you, like Tristan was on fire today?
Yeah, a lot of questions.
Thanks, Tristan. How do you handle intentional non-German speaking colleagues? Are you conducting the interviews in English, or when you use interpreters, and how do you do it?
Yeah, so it's a good question, which I also like really look into to try to involve everybody. So we're conducting the interviews in German because like our page is on German, so all the wordings, all the content is basically German.
Makes sense.
But what we then try to do is like trying to the insights we get out of it, we all documenting everything in English. So even if you would get like a customer quote, we would translate it into English to say this is what the customer said. So yeah, that's a way of doing it. Sometimes we do also like that. For example, the team afterward looks again into like videos in pairs. So for example, we get a German speaker and a non-German speaker together watching a video, which is also really good because then the German speaker has to kind of explain what he also is understanding. So you get already this discussion point out of it. And right now we are also looking into like trying to make subtitles for the videos. So if we created in German to have like English subtitles for it, so that you could at least not in the streaming, but afterwards like rewatch it on English.
Okay. And now, I mean, my question linked to the subtitles, how do you do the subtitle? Is it like automatic transcription done, or?
Yeah, we're looking into it yet, but it should be automatically, but yeah, working on it.
Yeah. I will send you, I have a list of tools I've created.
Yeah, perfect.
And I think there's some podcast tools I know researchers are using, like for podcaster, but I think it could work for researchers as well. So
yeah.
I mean, we will add them into the resources of the webinar.
Yeah, cool.
All right. Next question. And Tristan again, how is the organizational structure? Are you a designer in the multidisciplinary teams, or you are in a more overarching role? Well, I think you kind of already answered that, but just to remind people.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's like all the product designers are inside a product team. So we have a horizontal of product design where I'm also part of. Even I'm the researcher. But yeah, the designers are inside the team and I'm kind of outside of the teams and kind of supporting all of them. So yeah, that's the structure.
Okay, cool. Next one. How did you get credibility with management for UX testing? Like, did you have like an internal sponsor, or how did you do it?
Both a bit. So basically, like when I started, then there was like the director of product of the time also really saw that qualitative research would be like interesting, of course, and would be that we needed it. So he was kind of in favor of of really having the UXLab, of keeping track on that. But afterwards, it was I was just doing it and then trying to show what we achieved. So and as I said before, like it's really, once you can show that there is so much demand and how it's like really affecting the way that product development works, then it was not really needing to convince them. It was just saying like, hey, we are doing this and it's working. So yeah, so then we continued with that.
Yeah, cool. Question now from Anya is about hypothesis. How do you gather and prioritize hypothesis and research tasks over all product teams? Kind of started with this, I guess, with the 4 different product verticals, but maybe you want to dive deeper into this.
Yeah, so basically we just collect them in a channel. Like if it's related to this Thursday, which we are doing like every 2 weeks, then we have a specific channel in Slack for this as well, where I just post every Monday, hey, like every second Monday, do you have any questions? And then yeah, we gather them there. And once we have the research questions and the bit tasks, then normally I create a test manual out of it with some tasks, the prioritization of it, and then we have again a meeting with all the people involved to really go through it and think about if it's working in the way they really want it to.
Okay. So to summarize, Slack questions, create your Slack channel, ask the questions on Monday, you create kind of your report, get a meeting, all the people involved, and validate or not, basically.
Exactly. So I think like Slack really works really good for us because it's not as formal as really creating a ticket, as creating like a conference page or like something like really formal, which is there. And it also engages like more the conversation between like different designers or different teams. If they see, for example, okay, they want to test I don't know, like the buy box in our product detail page, like we have something similar, or we have something which can be linked to this, and then and sometimes we even extend like the task or the research question because somebody comes up with a new question based on what we shared. So yeah.
Definitely. Cool. So many questions today.
Yeah.
It's good. It's a very interactive session. Mitra is asking, in which phase of production are you doing the UX research? Is it like wireframing or design phase? And second question, do you repeat the research testing in one project in different phases?
Yeah, so we are doing it in all kind of phases, I would say. So the ideal would be, of course, at the start of a project. Then we really start with discovery, like interviews, and maybe we don't even have a prototype. We're just maybe doing benchmark usability testing, like going on another e-commerce shop and trying it out there. And then we keep iteratively above our prototype. So for example, the homepage was a project where I was still like the half designer at that time. And I think we did like 4 rounds of really qualitative research, our prototype, like really looking, okay, we still have these questions or these issues which are not solved. Let's do the next prototype. And then we keep, so basically we have different types of prototypes, or we test our live site, which is also nice that you just test what is already there.
No, cool. Yeah, I mean, you reach a maturity where you have now the structure, I would say, to test kind of in whatever moment you need.
Yeah, and I think it's also really valuable to not test without nearly anything. You can just like sketch something on a paper and say like, hey, what do you think is this? Or like, how would you interact with it? What do you expect? Like, I'm always in favor of not investing too much time at the beginning into a prototype, and also not making it like perfect, because at the end normally like you will rebuild it anyway, or it's not used anymore. So
Another good point. And now interesting question with the equipment UXLab have, like how is it equipped, what can it do, etc. I guess.
So it's basically, it used to be a meeting room. So at some times then we just blocked it and said, hey, we don't have meetings in here anymore. And it's really basic. So like we had like I would say we didn't have like a limited budget, but we just said, okay, let's do it as cheap as possible.
Yeah.
So we basically have different types of smartphones in there, like Android and iOS of different sizes. We do have a tablet for testing, and a laptop and a big like streaming PC, like where we really start like the recording and stream it into the office when we were still at the office. So we were doing that like with open source software, and yeah, really like I would say on a low budget for that. And as I said, we have this eye tracking device, which is it's actually made for gaming. So it's like but it's working quite good like for desktop devices. And some like document camera, like to see like the participant maybe from above, or if they interact like with card sorting like that. And yeah, just a small corner where we just have like two like chairs where you can really just sit and talk with the participant if you do like an interview, to not be like sitting on the table like really straight. And yeah, that's how it looks like.
Okay, no, perfect. Looks like you have still very complete UXLab. What you have. No, very good. And now it's like, yeah, question from Anonymous is like, to whom do you report technically, since you're like your own team now, but how is it structured organizationally?
Yeah, so I'm basically still part of the product design horizontal. So I'm reporting to the lead product designer, but also staying like in close contact with the director of product, like really, because it's something, UX research is also at some point a strategic role, like to where do you want to go. So basically staying with the design team.
Okay. Yeah, it makes sense. I mean,
it's what is most related to it, and I'm still like really in every weekly and really close with all the designers, because I think it's important to have like a good connection as well, like, and to get to know what they're really working on, to come up maybe with other research questions which are not discovered by them yet, for example.
Yeah, exactly. So we're almost at the end. We have, let's say, we'll take like
Okay.
The last questions, and then the one unanswered, we can see if we want to answer by mail. We can add it in the resource show notes, etc. So the last three questions are: Roman, yeah, do you disclose the test participant you are streaming and how many people are watching? Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I mean, how many people are watching, it's difficult to explain it beforehand because you never know it. But yeah, we do say it, so yeah.
Yeah, okay. On your personal note, what methodologies do you find the most useful, and how do you, let's say, present the insights from this research?
Which methodologies? I really like just, I would say, normal usability UX tests, like trying to to create a product and then show it to the users and look what they are really doing with it, like if they really understand the concept or not, like trying out new concepts in a UX test. And how to present it. Yeah, as I said, we're not doing really reports, so sometimes if it's something really new, like for example, we did this diary study or this contextual study, then I'm normally creating like some slides, like maybe 10 slides or something like this, and showing it, for example, in like we call it like all hands, where like the whole tech department is there, like we have this monthly, and then you just show like what was the outcome of it.
Okay. And so let's say when you create slides, do you kind of make a rules to not make more than 10?
I really try to make it short, like
okay.
It's because if at the end you have a deck of, I don't know, 30 slides, then it's also too much.
No,
so,
I think it's good how you try to compress insights basically. And now the last questions with Yen, which is, when performing UX research, are the needs of disabled users taken into account to improve accessibility? Because I think it's something interesting you start doing, I guess.
Exactly. So until now, we were basically not focusing exhaustively on accessibility, but we started now to look more into visual impaired users, like how they would really perceive it. So we found, for example, a really cool plugin, which is like it simulates how you would see a page if you have like a certain visual impairment.
Yeah.
So we are looking into that, and also really want to do like usability or like discovery research with impaired users because I think especially now because of Corona, it's even more important because everybody is online now. You need to be online. Like we saw that at the start of the Corona phase where like e-commerce was scaling like a lot, like everybody was buying. So I think we really need to involve all kind of users into our research.
That's the diversification of research you are doing. Okay. No, I think it's really interesting. I mean, thank you for today, Lydia. It was really awesome to learn all these tricks, your trajectory, and you know how you came up to be a team of 3 now. So thanks for your time, for answering all the questions from the audience. It was a very interactive session. Like, do you have a message you like to say to the audience, or maybe a message you would like to communicate at the end? Or
basically, thanks for also taking part and watching this. But to keep on, even if you are a team of 1, it can be scaled, it can work, and to keep research like really into the company.
Okay, well, perfect. So this video will be online, I think, normally from tomorrow. We'll add the resource note with the resources we discussed, etc. And thank you for watching, and I'll see you next month. Thanks, Lydia, again. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.